Hello, everybody. So excited to be here with another 2026 Wow Warrior Honoree. Oh, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Barbara Mojica. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you so much, Sherri. I'm so happy to be here today.
We met, I guess it was sometime in 2025, and I was so impressed with all of the amazing things that you are doing, which we're going to get to in just a little bit. But I would love to ask you, as an honoree, what does it mean for you, in your words, and to you personally, to be a woman of worth warrior?
I think for me, being a woman of worth warrior means that I have succeeded in my ambition to bring resources of value to the population that I have always served, which are children and their families. And it's taken me many years in a long career to accumulate bits and pieces of knowledge. But now my mission is to share what I've learned of whatever value it might be to other families. And hopefully they will be able to implement it in their lives.
Oh, how beautiful. So, Barbara, along those lines, because you spoke about your journey and that journey that you've had to that and understanding what your impact, I guess we'll say that is, is there a specific moment that shaped your journey that really helped you understand and own your own worth?
It was a long period of time that led up to that moment, but I think the most defining moment in my career was when I realized I needed to make a change. I understood after working with children for so many years in a general education type of setting that there were so many kids who were not having their needs met, and that we need to adapt our education to the learning style of each individual child. And in discovering that, it took me a long time to discover it, but after 20 years in general education, I realized that I needed to learn more about individual needs and individual children and how exactly I was going to achieve that purpose of giving them the way they needed to learn. And so I switched to general education. And in that moment, I was able to work with so many other types of professionals who were so adept at helping children learn in different ways. And then I was able to eventually become an administrator, at which point I was able to take all of that knowledge that I had learned from them and with them, and was able to bring it all together and give children what they needed in the sense of actually developing the type of program for each individual child's need.
Oh, your heart is showing. I love that, Barbara. Thank you so much. So, I think you answered this next question a little bit, but when I ask you, who are you called to serve? It sounds like that is definitely children. But I'd like to ask really more, the question is, why does that matter to you? What is it that has prompted you to want to serve children in that way?
I've always loved children. When I went to college, that wasn't my original intent. My original major in both graduate and undergraduate studies was history. And I had a love of history because I was always so eager to find out about different people from different cultures who led very different lives from my own. And as a child, I wasn't able to do much traveling. My family didn't have much opportunity to travel. We didn't even have a car. We didn't have a lot of financial resources. So that was always something that had driven me. The long run, when I finished my graduate studies, I realized that I didn't want to be part of that quote academic tower research type of person. I wanted to get out and work with people. And so I went into education and I tried to implement what I had learned in all of my studies in everyday lessons that they might be able to understand and appreciate that history is important in getting us to understand. If we know history, we can learn how we got to where we are today, and then how to use what we learned to create a plan for ourselves and for other people in our families and communities, how to develop a better future by using that information.
And that's one of the things that really stood out to me, Barbara, when we first met was that love of history that you have and that understanding of what the true impact is of history on us as individuals and collectively as well. So thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. I'm sure everyone can see what a beautiful soul you are, but I would love to ask you the question of who is it that has inspired you? What woman has been an inspiration in your life or has helped you be inspired in the way that you lead?
Oddly enough, it was a history teacher. I went to high school with the intention of having a job that would provide me stability and a way of earning a living. My family had not had a college experience, and it really wasn't in the cards for me to go to college. But when I got to high school and I was learning more or less a trade, stenography at that time was big, typing, the skills to have a career in business, I met a history teacher who just absolutely blew me away. And she had such a passion, such a love, such a way of getting you into the head of these historical people and the events in which they were involved. And she told me that I had to go to college. There was just no question about it. And that was the first spark in my head. And she said, there's a way to do it. And I did. I excelled in my studies, and I was able to get into a college that would afford me the opportunity to attend without getting into a lot of debt, because at that time there was available a system in New York City that you could gain entrance to if you had the academic grades. Pushed me into excelling at everything I did. So the rest of my career in high school, I was consumed into getting the very best grades so that I could get into a college that would afford me the opportunity to attend without spending a ton of tuition. And I used those business skills that I learned in high school in order to help me pay for expenses like books and all of the other incidentals that go along with college. So she was the person who really turned my life around in so many ways.
Oh, I love that. It's interesting too because and I know that we had talked about this, I think, but my 11th grade history teacher was the literal only class that I think I ever enjoyed in history, and she did the very same thing when you talked about bringing historical characters to life. That is what she did inside the classroom. She would have us up out of our chairs pretending we were these people in this group and like it just literally made the history come alive and every single person in our high school loved her and loved her class whether they loved history or not they loved her class and I think the same thing inspiring that curiosity which is so amazing and I know that you have carried on that legacy which we're going to talk about in just a second along that journey as you were speaking of earlier was there ever a time where you felt a lot of self-doubt or you doubted whether you were doing the right thing on the right path and if so did you how did you navigate that?
I think one time when I doubted myself was when I was going to make that change in career, because I had been in that same school for over 20 years. I was very comfortable there. And in the back of my head, I kept hearing that little voice, why do you want to do this now? And this is something so different, so uncomfortable. It will involve a lot of stress because in doing so, I had to get a completely new certification. So it meant going to school in a very condensed program in order to do this in a reasonable amount of time. So I was going to be working and I was going to be going to school. I was going to be still raising my family because at the time my children were in high school. So it involved a lot of pressure. And in the back of my head, I had that self doubt, though I was always the kind of person who accepted a new challenge and really was never afraid to explore something different. Curiosity was one of the character traits that always made me look to something new, even if I wasn't so sure. So there was that little voice in the background, but nevertheless, I did it. Another point was after I had become an administrator of a special ed preschool, and I was doing what I thought was a really good job in developing the curriculum, getting kids the programs they need. I took another leap and I became an administrator with the city. And at that point, I was going to be evaluating children directly and then finding, physically going and finding the exact program that children needed. I knew I wanted to do that, but again, in the back of my head, there was this little bit of doubt. I'm accepting a new challenge now. Do I want to make this change? So while I always had the desire to move on to something new, to challenge myself, there was that little doubt in the back of my mind.
Oh, and I love that. And that's the transparency there and saying that even strong women still have sometimes that doubt. The difference in being a wild warrior is that you courage through that. And that's a hallmark of a woman of worth because she knows that even in that moment where you feel that little thing that's poking at you, you push through and activate that courage and really stand in your purpose. I love that, Barbara. Thank you so much for sharing that. I would like for you, if you would, just to give us a quick 1 minute overview of what you're doing today because you have a whole host of things that you do. And I love your series of books and stuff. I'd like you to just give us a little 1 minute overview of what you're doing and how you're serving today.
That's going to be hard. Okay, 1 minute. I try to pull together the different types of resources that children and their families may need. So I think my book series, my history nonfiction books, are intended to develop critical thinking skills in children. They do give children a background and knowledge of history, but they also allow children the ability to question and to figure out solutions to questions or problems that have arisen in telling these tales. So that's one thing that is important and that matters to me. But I want to give parents different types of resources because they're in different situations. So some parents are homeschoolers. I try to collect resources for them. So I collect curriculum resources. I collect suggestions for books. And I do a YouTube channel where I have mini teaching lessons that parents may want to use to supplement their children's learning. I have a blog, and on my blog, I try to give tips and strategies and different tools that parents may want to use in their families. Some of them are for parents themselves, some of them are for children. I suggest different types of books and materials that they may want to use, and even for authors. So sometimes I talk about my author journey and I talk with or about different authors and different points of view, and how writing is an important talent and skill that we need to develop in ourselves and in our children as well. So I try to use all of my time as an educator to educate, but in a way that's going to entertain people and inspire them to want to get out, expand their curiosity, and at the same time to persevere. And even when things look challenging or it appears that we're not going to be able to succeed, we always have to push on, and we can do that. We can reach down and find that little extra spark in there to keep going, even in the darkest days, as we might say. There's always that hope, that ability within us, that little voice in our head that says, "Yeah, you can do it."
I love that. Thank you so much, Barbara. Oh gosh, and what a difference that you are making in the lives of children and in parents. Sometimes it's tough to be a parent today and to feel like you are doing enough. And I love that you're providing those resources. Thank you for sharing all those things. And we're going to be providing, you can see on the screen that connect with Barbara at littlemisshistory.com, where you can find all the things that she has talked about, the books and the blog and all those things. You're going to be able to connect with her. And as a last question, I would like to ask you, as an honoree for Wow Warrior 2026, what message is it that you would share with a woman who knows she's meant for more, maybe still questioning her worth a bit, or is hesitating to pursue her passion? What advice would you give her?
I would say just do it. Don't hesitate. Tomorrow isn't promised to us. And I think as we get older, we realize more and more that we have to make use of every moment. If we say tomorrow, that tomorrow may never come, something else may interfere, we may not get the opportunity again. So I always say, seize the opportunity, carpe diem, seize the day, do it now.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. Seize the day. Carpe diem. Congratulations, Barbara Mojica. We are so thrilled to have you as a 2026 Wow Warrior, Woman of Worth Warrior for this platform. I am so honored to know you, and I just want to say congratulations, and this is a well deserved honor.
I appreciate that, but at the same time, I am very honored and hope that whatever I can share with others, it will just be of some value to them. And that's my ambition right now, to take all of the years experience I have and somehow make somebody else's life a little easier or a little better.
Thank you so much, Barbara. You are the best. Congratulations again, and see you soon.
Thank you.